This morning, what I wanted to begin helping us to understand, because we're going somewhere with this, and that is that a part of what you did was you used your judgment to say, well, it's this person is probably this, they're probably not that, they might be this. But you use that, we sometimes call it discernment in a lot of spiritual and religious circles. But you use judgment, and I want to first of all talk about judgment and talk about the fact that judgment in the right context is okay. We use it to navigate life. We move it to move through life. And so as I was putting this message together and I started thinking about and reflecting on judgment, I came up with a really kind of, I thought about another judge that didn't happen.
Yeah. Oh,
No.
Judge Judy?
No. I had, where'd her picture go?
I didn't do it.
But somebody that you know, Judge Judy. And I was thinking about Judge Judy, who, by the way, I just read yesterday, signed a $300 million contract through the year 2020, so she'll be making $47 million a year for her TV show. Somebody said it pays to be mean. But I started thinking about the fact that we use judgment, and so often we feel like, though, that we shouldn't judge. But the fact is, we all judge. And so as I was kind of playing around in my mind, and thinking about Judge Judy, I came up with a kind of goofy name for the message. And I said, as I was putting it down, I said, well, I'll go back and change that later. But it never changed. So this morning, the title is Judge Judy. Because we have a tendency a lot of times to judge and to be then caught up in the fact to feel guilty about the fact that we judged. And as I said, what I want us to understand is that judgment helps navigate us through life. It helps us make decisions, determine one thing or another, to realize that some things are good for us and some things are not so good for us. I mean, many of you are familiar with that series of direct TV commercials with Rob Lowe. And they'll have Rob Lowe that will come out, hi, I'm Rob Lowe. And then there's one particular one that comes and says, hi, I'm the poor decision-making Rob Lowe. And and then he talks about how he gave a homeless man the keys to his car because he needed it, and then he ends up riding the bus, and then he celebrates the fact that he found a tuna sandwich on the bus. I don't know why that's so funny to me. But he found a tuna sandwich on the bus, and he ate it. And he celebrated the fact that I ate this tuna sandwich that I found on the bus. So probably isn't a good use of judgment, but again, demonstrating how judgment helps us to navigate through life. So I want to get that out of the way first. I want us to understand that first, that it serves a purpose. But often we bump up against teaching in religious and spiritual circles about not judging. And we know the master teacher Jesus reminded us to not judge unless we want to be judged. And in the same measure that we judge, we shall be judged. And he's really, again, talking about oftentimes you see people pointing the finger at others and really downing them. And then what happens is that over a period of time, people start to look at you. Say, what makes you so much better than anybody else? And I remember a teacher in the 6th grade always telling me, anytime you point the finger at somebody else, you've got 3 pointing back at you. So it's important us again to understand that. But then, if we are talking about this month, letting go and surrendering. And remember last week we talked about the fact of clearing muddy waters, how in our lives we get ourselves caught up in all kinds of feelings, and we have all types of feelings, and the idea of someone making us mad, that we wouldn't be mad unless there was mad already in us. And we talk about that and look at that, and we said last week that what we were going to do this month is explore a way that we can get ourselves to the point where not only do we not always get mad, but we get a lot of that mad that is in us out out of us. We learn to surrender and let go, and know that surrendering and letting go is not about giving up. It's not about letting someone else tell us what to do, but it's about being clear. It's about being clear and being free. And the way that we become clear and that we become free is we learn to understand and pay attention to our feelings. We pay attention to our feelings. And it's interesting that, again, if you've not already picked up in our teaching, that one of the important things about our teaching is to become self-aware. To be aware of what we're thinking, become aware of what we're feeling, become aware of our relationship to one another, to become aware of our relationship with the universe, because ultimately it's the same thing. So we become aware of our feelings. We become aware of when anger is there. We become aware of when fear is there. We become aware of when anxiety is there. We become aware of when frustration is there. We become aware of when lust is there. We become aware of all of the feelings that we have, because one feeling can lead to 1,000 thoughts. And so first we become aware of those feelings. If you go back to fear and how that creates 1,000 thoughts, that when we are fearful and when we are walking around in a state of fear, then everything and everyone becomes suspect. We start to see danger around every corner. We start to distrust people. We start to jump to conclusions about situations and circumstances and things that really have no other merit other than the fact that this feeling of fear, this feeling that is there, and it gets called up over and over and over again, and it manifests itself in many different ways. So the way we begin the process of letting go, first of all, is we become aware of those feelings. That when I'm in a place and when I'm in a space and I begin to feel something, I become aware of it. And here's the key where we talked about judgment. We have to do it in such a way that we don't judge what we're feeling. Say that again. We do it in such a way that we stop judging what we feel. I'm fearful. I shouldn't feel that way. But it's how you feel right then. I'm angry. Shouldn't feel that way. Judgment says, be slow to anger. Judgment says, but that's how I feel. First of all, to not judge it. Because oftentimes, we over-religious-size things and everything, and I'm all right, and I never get angry, I never get upset, I never get frightened, because, God is always with me, and, I'm too blessed to be stressed. I can't call it what I want to say here, because this is a family show.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. But that is, if we are honest about it, we all have feelings that maybe we would not wish to have in a particular situation or circumstance, but we still have them. And the thing that happens is that when we judge them, then as David Hawkins says, we then respond in one of three ways. We repress them, meaning we push them down. And we try to act like that they aren't there, and people can tell, are you okay? Oh yeah, I'm fine, everything's okay. And they can look at us and tell, yeah, all right. We repress them. And see, one of the things that's important to understand, that anytime we repress something, it comes back up in another way. Where do you think stress comes from? Repressed feelings. And so you say you're too blessed to be stressed, and then, at the midnight hour when nobody else is around and no one else sees you, then you're just kind of out there. just too blessed to be stressed, but then you don't completely know. So it's important that we understand those things. It's important that we understand that. The second reaction that we have when we don't completely understand our feelings and we try to judge them and everything is then we are those people who say, I'm just going to get it out there. I'm just going to, whatever comes up, comes out. I'm going to tell everybody. Sometimes that works. But a lot of times it doesn't. Then we destroy relationships. We burn bridges. We find ourselves in ways that don't serve us. We find ourselves in situations where we wish we hadn't done that. We wish we hadn't said that. We sever ties because of that. And then the third way is escape. Escape. So rather than repressing my feelings, rather than expressing my feelings, I find something else as a substitute. So I might find a substance that I use. I might find that I overeat. I might find that I overindulge in something. I might find that I get caught up in everything else that I try to, whatever I can not to acknowledge that those feelings are there. And so that if I don't acknowledge that they're there, that somehow they'll go away. So the important thing becomes to become aware of the feeling, and when they come, we don't judge them. We allow them to be. Those of you that meditate know that I'm talking about a very similar process with thoughts. That when we meditate, our mind is going to be busy. It's going to. But if we learn how to just let those thoughts come and not get caught on any of them, but let them just float on by, then after a while, we reach the stage and we reach the point where they just happen. And we just let them be, and we don't get caught up. We don't get bothered. We don't get taken off track. Oh, there it is. It's the same thing as we start to observe and become aware of our feelings. There it is. There it happened. It just is. I'm letting it be here, and I'm not judging it. I'm allowing myself to understand that yes, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And in that human experience, certain feelings are going to happen. Certain feelings are going to come up. Certain feelings are going to occur. But as they do, I gain the understanding that there's something deeper and something greater than this. And I learn how to begin letting go. I learn how to begin dealing with those feelings. And when we say letting go of the feelings and the reactions that are caused by those feelings, that is something that we are moving toward. That is something that we are working on this month so that we can be free, that we can surrender, that we can let go, that we can reach a place in a state where we ultimately know that all is well. You see, one of the spiritual teachers, when was asked, how he made his mind over matter, it seemed like that when things happened, he was ultimately calm and that kind of thing. And he said, it's mind over matter. He said that when things that should matter happen, I don't mind. I don't pay them any mind. And when we learn to do that, we learn to be free. So as we move forward the next week and the next week and then the final week, because we got 5 Sundays in this month, we will explore again how to be free, how to surrender, how to let go. But what I want you to do for me this week is to become the observer of your feelings. And as you become the observer of your feelings, I want you to reach the stage and reach the state where you can begin the process of not getting caught up with that. Anger is going to happen in some cases. Frustration is going to happen in some cases. Anxiety is going to happen in some cases. But just learning to sit, to observe, to let it be the witness of yourself. And just see what it does for you. The Course in Miracles, takes us in the beginning through all of this where we, go through a process where we see, You know, the things that I see don't mean what I think that they mean. The things that I hear don't mean what I think they mean. That we just reach that state where we just allow it to be. And that's not that we're some kind of that's floating out there, but that we become focused and anchored and centered and determined. And then Judge Judy is all right. And so it is.
So it is.